Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. This week we're going to continue looking at some basic scales and learn a basic fingering for the natural minor scale. As always, check out TalkingBass.net where you can download the lesson material for this and every other video release. Just follow the link in the info below. And also, while you're over there, check out the lesson map where every free lesson is systemized and categorized for ease of navigation. So go check it out. Okay, let's start by having a look at a basic natural minor pattern and then we'll have a closer look at its construction and use. So we're going to look at a C natural minor scale, so that's a scale starting on the note C, and the scale is going to sound like this. Okay, so that's a C natural minor scale. So first of all, I'll run through the notes, then I'll run through the frets and the fingering. So we have C, D, E flat on the A string, then we move to the D string, F, G, A flat, then we move to the G string and B flat, C, and then we just come back down, okay? So in terms of the frets, on the A string we have 3rd fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, then on the D string we have 3rd fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, and then on the G string we have 3rd fret, 5th fret, okay? So it's exactly the same pattern on the A and the D string. And then we just come back down through the pattern. In terms of the fingering on the fretting hand, we have 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger, and then we repeat the same thing. 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger, and then 1st finger, 3rd finger for the G string, okay? So it's pretty much a 1 finger per fret span there from the 3rd fret to the 6th fret. So that's the scale, okay? So you want to play it ascending and then descending, okay? And start as slow as you need to go. Don't worry about getting it in time or anything like that. Just start slow and just make sure that each note is played correctly and precisely. You want a nice clean technique as you're working up. You don't want to be, scuffing the notes or anything like that. Just make sure that each note is played correctly. And another thing that I would say in terms of getting the technique correct as you work on it is that as you work up through the notes on one string, keep each note held down in turn. So when you play the C there with the 1st finger, when you move to the D, keep that 1st finger held down and just bring that 3rd finger down. It'll help actually with the finger strength, because if you're using individual fingers in this way, you've got to use, the string has got further to come down. When you actually hold down the 1st finger there for the C and then press down with that 3rd finger, there's less distance that the string has to move, because we're fretting here. It's almost like we've got a nut there or a capo. So 1st finger, keep it held down, bring down the 3rd finger, keep that held down, bring down the 4th finger. So you can see there, once I've played all 3 notes, I've got the 1st finger, 3rd finger and 4th finger all held down in a line. Then exactly the same thing on the D string, and then, okay, so don't worry too much about that when you first get started with it. You just want to get those notes under your fingers. But then as you play through it a few times, you can concentrate more on your technique, and that's a good tip. So that's the natural minor scale. You want to get that pattern under your fingers and just move it around. When you move it around, the fret pattern and the fingering stays the same no matter where you take it. You just start from a different note. So if we were to play a D natural minor scale, find a D, there's a D, 5th fret of the A string, just play up through it. Exactly the same pattern, exactly the same fingering, but we're just starting 2 frets higher. G natural minor, find a G, there's a G, 3rd fret of the E string. Same fingering. B flat, find a B flat, there's a B flat, 1st fret of the A string. Just move it around and get used to it. And then once you feel comfortable with that, try starting on an open string and just moving that pattern with it. So A, open A there. Okay, so the fretting pattern stays the same. The fingering changes obviously when you play it on an open string, but it's a good little test that, just to see if you really know that shape. Try an A, try an E. Okay, just move it around. Now, in terms of application, the natural minor is our basic foundation when it comes to the minor key. We work out the minor key signatures from it, and you can learn all the other minor type scales as simple variations on that natural minor shape. So the harmonic minor, melodic minor, Dorian scales, and all the other minor based scales can be much easier to learn once you have that basic formula under your fingers. Now, I won't be delving into the relative minor major key relationships here because this is just a simple introduction to the scale itself. But if you want more information, just look at the minor key lessons over at talkingbass.net. Now, if we look at a little bit of music theory in terms of the construction of that scale, we have the following intervals. The root note, then we have major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, and then we're back to the octave. Now, if you don't know anything about intervals and you don't know what I'm talking about there, just check out the Music Theory for Bass series over at the Talking Bass lesson map, and that should answer all of your questions. You know, there's several lessons in there dealing with intervals. And also in terms of the numbers relative to the basic major scale, you can also see this scale as 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, and then we're back to 1 again, okay? So that's the intervallic construction of this scale. Now, knowing all the theory behind a scale is all well and good, but it's also important to know the types of sounds we can create with it. So, just in case you didn't know, as a general rule of thumb, minor bass things tend to sound sad, and major bass things tend to sound happy. And this is a massive generalization, but it can be a good way for beginners to perceive the differences when you're getting started. So, here's a major scale. So that sounds fairly happy and content. And here's the minor scale, the natural minor scale. Here that sounds a lot sadder. Here's a melody using a major scale. Okay, fairly contented there. And here's a natural minor scale. Okay, so you can hear the difference in there. The major bass things sounded a little bit happier and contented. The minor bass things sounded a little more sad and melancholy. So let's finish up with a simple bass riff using that natural minor scale. This riff's in C minor and it sounds like this. Okay, so that's the riff round and round. So this is going to be using the C natural minor scale. So once again, just play through the scale just to familiarize yourself with the pattern. Okay, and we begin the riff with the C. So 3rd fret on the A string. Then we move up to the G, 5th fret of the D string. Then we move up to the B flat at the 3rd fret of the G string. Then we come back to the G, 5th fret of the D string, then up again to the B flat, 3rd fret of the G string, and then up to the C, 5th fret of the G string. Okay, so that's the first part. And for a little more feel with this, just cut that note off before you move up to the G. 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay, so just play round and round that until you get that off. Okay, then the second part of the riff sounds like this. Okay, so it's almost the same. We begin with the C, then we have the G, then up to the B flat again. But then instead of coming back to the G and then moving up, up to the C, we come down to the G, 5th fret of the D string, then down to the E flat, the 6th fret of the A string, then the D, 5th fret of the A string, and that brings us back to the C. So. Okay, so if I just play round and round on that. So let's put both of those parts together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's the whole riff. Now, in terms of the fingering on this hand, this is where it's important to show you that you don't always have to stick to exactly the same fingering that you used when you played the scale. You can actually play anything as long as you get the notes correct. You can use any finger you want. It's just that certain fingerings are going to be more efficient and useful. So, when I came up on the first part of the riff, I used the 4th finger there for the G. So I'm only playing with this kind of 3-fret span there. So we've got 1st finger for the C, 4th finger or pinky for the G there, 1st finger for the B flat again, back to the 4th finger for the G, you know, and then up. So I'm using the 4th finger again for the C up at the top. So for the first part of the riff, I'm only using the 1st and the and the 4th finger. So. Okay, and this is very similar in a way to the way that we look at octave patterns. You know, you don't use a 1st and 3rd finger usually for an octave pattern. It just doesn't feel comfortable. Whereas the 1st and 4th finger, it falls under the fingers a lot easier, even if you like to think of that 1 finger per fret system, you know, for playing scales. When it comes down to bass lines, you can kind of use whatever you want, as long as it feels correct. So, for the second part of the riff, all I did there was I used the 1st and 4th finger again, until I come back to the G, and then I used the 3rd finger, the ring finger, for the G, just so that it puts me in a better position to come down with the 4th finger and 3rd finger on the E flat and the D, 6th fret and 5th fret on the A string. So when I come up, I'm using the 4th finger for the G, and then when I come down, I'm using the 3rd finger, then 4th finger, 3rd finger on the A string. And this isn't something you have to really worry about. You know, that was just something that I did naturally, just automatically. I was using that, you know, 1st finger and 4th finger as my default position. But then when I was coming down, I could kind of tell that I was going to be coming down to the 4th finger, so it just felt more natural to play the 3rd finger so that I come down to there, because if I played with the 4th finger on the G, I'd have to kind of hop over with that 4th finger again to hit that E flat. So yeah, just whenever you're learning riffs like this, don't worry too much about what the correct fingering is going to be. It's just whatever works for the line. So that's the natural minor scale. It's a great introduction to learning minor type scales and should build a foundation that you can build upon for years to come. Okay? I'll see you later.